At our first anniversary party, my husband's father stood up and announced, "We found him a better wife. It's not too late to fix his mistake." My husband stared at me and whispered, "Maybe we should talk." I smirked and said, "Oh, we'll talk right after they see this." The entire room fell silent as I exposed their darkest secret. Let me just start by saying I didn't come from money. My husband, Jake, did. We met in Chicago through work. I was in marketing. He was a graphic designer who came from a well-off family in Lake Forest. At first, none of that mattered. He was kind, laid back, nothing like his parents. Or at least, that's what I thought. His dad, Richard, owned a logistics company that had been in the family for decades. His mom, Diane, ran a lifestyle blog, which was basically just an excuse to go to spas and complain about her maid. From day one, they treated me like I didn't belong. Like I was just some poor girl trying to grab the golden ticket. They always compared me to Claire. Claire was Jake's high school sweetheart. Blonde, delicate, rich family, Phi Beta Kappa, whole package. Apparently, she cried when she found out Jake had proposed to me. Diane loved bringing that up. Every dinner. The first year of marriage wasn't easy. Not because of Jake, at least. Not yet, but because of them. Every family event came with subtle digs. "Oh, you're still working? That's admirable. Have you ever thought of letting Jake focus on his career? It must be hard for him to support both of you." And the classic, "Claire's mom says she's engaged now. Her fiancé is a doctor." It wore me down. But Jake always said, just ignore them. They're stuck in their ways. So I did. Until I couldn't anymore. About 4 months before our first anniversary, something changed in Jake. He got distant. Cold. He stayed late at work more often, avoided conversations, and didn't touch me unless I initiated it. I asked if he was okay. He always said, "Just tired." But his phone was buzzing more. And he was always smiling at it. At first, I didn't think it was cheating. I thought maybe he was texting a friend. Or maybe his parents were putting pressure on him again. I tried to be patient. Supportive. Then I saw Claire's name on his screen. Late one night, he left his phone in the kitchen. It lit up. "Claire, I'm glad we talked. Let's keep it between us for now." I didn't confront him. Not right away. I needed more than a text. So I started watching. Waiting. I checked the phone bill. Hours of calls to a number that wasn't saved. I called it from my work line. Claire answered. She sounded way too comfortable. Why I didn't explode immediately, I could have gone off right then. But something told me this wasn't just about Jake. Something felt deeper. Something dirtier. So I hired a private investigator. A friend of mine from college had just started working in that field. I told her to follow Richard, Jake's dad. No one suspected him of anything, but I remembered something Diane said once. "I've learned not to call Richard when he's in New York. He's always too busy." That stuck with me. He claimed to be there for logistics contracts. But something didn't feel right. I told my PI friend, "If you find anything, tell me." 3 weeks later, she sent me a video. Richard. In New York. Not in a hotel. Not at a meeting. He was pushing a stroller. Laughing with a woman. Kissing her. He had a whole other family. Wife. 2 kids. A house in Brooklyn. Sunday brunches. The works. I nearly dropped my phone. She kept digging. More footage. Bank transfers. School fees. Utility bills. All paid from a separate business account. Richard had been living a double life for over 2 decades. I sat on that footage for months. I didn't know when or how I'd use it. But I knew it had to be perfect. I wasn't just going to get revenge. I was going to burn their entire illusion to the ground. We planned a big dinner at this upscale spot in downtown Chicago. Richard booked the private room. I wore this sleek black dress with heels so high they made me feel like a queen. I did my hair. I was ready. Everyone was there. Friends, coworkers, Jake's family. Claire, too. She wasn't invited. But there she was. Sitting next to Jake's parents like she belonged. Dressed in white. Not cream. Not ivory. White. She knew what she was doing. People whispered. I ignored them. Jake didn't say anything to me the entire dinner. He just sat there, awkwardly sipping his wine. I waited. Then it happened. Richard stood up and tapped his glass. "I'd like to say something," he said, raising his wine. "This past year has been enlightening. Sometimes, life gives us chances to correct mistakes. And we believe it's not too late." Everyone stared. Some people smiled nervously. Others looked confused. Then he dropped the bomb. "We found Jake a better match. A more suitable wife. One who understands our family. One who shares our values." Claire looked like she was about to stand up and wave. Richard finished with, "Jake, you know it's not too late to fix this." Gasps. Laughter. Confusion. Diane was beaming. Jake didn't say anything, just turned to me and whispered, maybe we should talk. I stared at him. I had seen enough. I smiled. Oh, we'll talk. Right after they see this. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the projector screen in the private room. Thankfully, Jake showed me how a few months ago, and hit play. And there he was. Richard. On a sunny street in Brooklyn. Holding hands with a woman who wasn't Diane. Pushing a stroller. Picking up dry cleaning. Kissing her on the mouth. Then another clip. Dinner with the kids. Kisses on the forehead. Tucking them in. I let the silence settle in. Let it sink. The whole room froze. No one moved. No one said a word. Then Diane stood up and screamed, "What the hell is this?" And Richard, the man who just tried to ruin my marriage at my own anniversary party, stammered, "I can explain." So, the video played. The room was stone silent. Diane stood there frozen. Her face? Pure shock. She looked at the screen, back at Richard, then back at the screen. Richard's mouth opened, then closed. He looked like he might faint. Claire? Oh, Claire looked like a deer caught in headlights. You could tell she wanted to run, but she also didn't want to draw attention to herself. It was too late for that. I stood still, calm, just watching, letting it all hang in the air. Then Diane snapped. She grabbed the nearest wine glass and threw it across the table, smashing it near Richard's chair. Who is she? How long? How long have you been lying to me? Still, no words from him. Just stuttering, sweating. And then, "She's my wife," Richard muttered. Everyone heard it. His voice was barely there, but it was loud enough. Like a gun going off in a church. Diane screamed. "You have a wife. A second wife. You're a goddamn bigamist, Richard. What the hell is wrong with you?" Now here's the twist. That second wife? Legally married. Not just a fling. Not just some secret girlfriend or long-term affair. My PI found marriage records. He'd married this woman, let's call her Rachel, under a fake name years ago. Different middle name, slightly altered birth date. Enough to make it stick under the radar. Richard had somehow kept both marriages going. Separate bank accounts. Fake business trips. Lies stacked on lies. The man was a walking fraud. I knew all of this. I didn't show everything on the screen. Just enough. But now Diane was screaming, demanding answers, and people were pulling out phones, whispering, backing away slowly. Jake just stared at me. Why didn't you tell me?" he asked. I turned to him, calm as ever, and said, "I was going to. But you told me we should talk. So now we are." That's when he got mad. Really mad. "You humiliated my family." I actually laughed. "Your family? The ones who tried to replace me? At my own anniversary party? Your dad committed actual crimes and I'm the bad guy." Then he said something I will never forget. "Maybe if you'd acted more like Claire, none of this would have happened." I stared at him. Claire gasped. I think she realized what he just said, but it was too late. That's when my friend Sophia, who was sitting in the back, stood up. "Oh hell no," she said, grabbing her purse. "I told you not to marry him." And she walked out. Honestly, a queen. Meanwhile, Diane was losing her mind. She started screaming about lawyers, about DNA tests, about how she was going to sue the hell out of Richard for fraudulent emotional damage. Not even sure that's a real thing, but honestly, she might pull it off. Claire tried to sneak out. Diane stopped her. "You think I didn't know you were sniffing around my son again? You little gold-digging tramp." Claire ran out in tears. Richard slumped down in his chair, head in his hands. Jake just kept staring at me like he didn't know who I was anymore. And maybe he didn't. I was done playing quiet. Done being the outsider. Done letting them walk all over me. I looked around and said, "I don't need to be here anymore." But then, Richard looked up. Eyes red. Voice weak. And he said, "You ruined me." And I said, "You did that all by yourself." I just showed the receipts. Then I turned to Jake. "Hope your talk with Claire goes well. Just make sure she knows what her future mother-in-law looks like when she's betrayed." He didn't say a word. But it wasn't over. Because 2 days later, Rachel, the second wife from New York, called me. Yeah, the second wife reached out. Turns out, she saw the video. Her sister had been at the party. Because, yes, small world, her sister's fiancé worked with one of Jake's cousins. She saw the video someone posted and recognized Richard instantly. Rachel had no idea about Diane. Or the other family. She thought she was the only wife. She wanted to talk. She had questions. She also had evidence. Bank statements. Emails. Photos. Stuff I didn't have access to. Now, we're teaming up. Because this story isn't over. Not by a long shot. Rachel, Richard's other wife, called me again the day after our first call. She had more. I met her at a coffee shop in Brooklyn. Just us, no lawyers yet. She looked tired. worn down. She had 2 little kids with her, both under 10. Adorable, innocent, and completely unaware that their dad was leading a double life. We sat down, ordered coffee, and didn't speak for a minute. Then she said, "He told me his first wife died." My stomach dropped. She kept going, said she died in a car accident before we met. He never said her name. I didn't ask. I just thought, why would someone lie about that? I didn't even know what to say. She showed me texts, emails, a whole fake story he fed her over the years. That his wife passed away, that his son was in boarding school, that he was trying to move on. He even made up a fake gravesite. She showed me a photo he sent her once, some random headstone, barely readable, in a cemetery in New Jersey. Rachel said, he married me under a different name. Richard Davis. His real name? Richard Daniels. He changed his middle name. Used an alternate business license. She had no idea. I asked why she hadn't gone to the police. I didn't want to ruin the kids' lives, she said. But now? He's on his own. That's when she handed me a flash drive. He kept everything backed up on an external drive. I found it last night. Thought you'd want to see. That flash drive? It changed everything. Emails. So many emails. Years of correspondence with lawyers, bank managers, property agents. Richard had set up not 2, not 3, but 4 separate investment accounts under 4 different LLCs, all used to shuffle money between both families without drawing attention. But that wasn't even the worst part. He had a folder called Contingency. Inside were scans of forged divorce papers. Photoshopped. One file was labeled If Diane Finds Out. He had plans. Detailed documents on how to fake his own death. How to make it look like he disappeared on a business trip. There were even notes on which country he could flee to with the least chance of extradition. Dude had a go-bag plan. Rachel had no idea. She thought he was just a cheating husband. I realized then, this wasn't just about revenge anymore. Richard was dangerous. Like legit scary. He wasn't just some scumbag who played 2 women. He was someone who prepared to abandon 2 families entirely, leave chaos behind, and start fresh overseas. Remember how I said Jake had been texting Claire? Well, I went back through some old photos from family gatherings. The anniversary party. The rehearsal dinner. Claire was always in the background. Always close to Jake. But I found something else. Something that hit me like a punch to the gut. One photo, taken at Diane's birthday dinner, showed Jake and Claire sitting together, laughing. His hand was on her leg. I'd brushed it off back then. But now? I looked closer. Claire had a ring on her finger. Not a regular ring. My ring. Jake and I had picked it out together. Custom made. He said it was unique. One of a kind. But Claire was wearing it in that photo. I checked the date. It was 3 weeks before Jake proposed to me. You catching on? He bought it for her. He gave her the ring first. She probably turned him down. Or he backed out. Then he gave the same damn ring to me. I felt physically sick. And it got worse. Rachel, being the tech-savvy goddess that she is, helped me dig through metadata on some files Jake had backed up to our shared cloud storage that he didn't realize I still had access to. Guess what we found? Emails from Claire. Going back months. They were planning to run away together. Jake wanted a divorce. He just didn't know how to tell me. He was scared of how it would look, divorcing the girl from the wrong side of the tracks after just 1 year. So he was hoping I'd crack under the pressure. Hoping I'd give up first so he wouldn't look like the bad guy. He told Claire, once my dad announces it at the party, she'll freak out and leave. Then it won't be my fault. That was the plan. He knew. He knew what Richard was going to say. He was in on it. That whisper, maybe we should talk? That was his way of seeing if I'd go quietly. Sitting on a mountain of evidence. Jake exposed. Claire, embarrassed. Richard, borderline criminal. Diane, betrayed. Rachel and I? Still talking. Still planning. We've started building a timeline. We're documenting everything. There's more. So much more. I haven't dropped the final card yet. I haven't even told Diane about Jake and Claire's little plan. And oh, when I do, you'll want to have popcorn ready. After everything Rachel and I uncovered, I had a choice to make. I could take the evidence to a lawyer, quietly file for divorce, and disappear from their lives. Or I could finish what they started. They wanted a show at my anniversary party. They wanted drama. They wanted a replacement. So I gave them a finale. Diane reached out 2 days after the party. She wanted to meet. I said yes. We met at her house in Lake Forest. Just the 2 of us. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her hair was a mess, no makeup, still wearing pearls though, classic Diane. She poured herself a whiskey before noon. I need to know everything, she said. Please. No more games. So I told her. Everything. The fake death story. The second marriage. The kids. The plan to flee the country. the fake documents, and Jake's little scheme with Claire. At first, she just nodded. Then she cried. Then she got quiet. I protected him, she said. I defended Richard to everyone. I gave up my friends, my career. For this? Then she asked, and Jake? You're sure he knew? I showed her the emails. She looked at them, wiped her eyes, and said, okay, let's end this. Diane planned a dinner. Just family, she said. She made it sound like an apology dinner, a healing thing. She invited me, Jake, Richard, Claire, and a few close cousins. Rachel was flying in too. Diane wanted to meet her. I knew what was coming. But Jake didn't. He thought it was a reconciliation. Big long table. Diane at one end. Me at the other. Jake walked in with Claire, holding hands. Richard arrived 10 minutes late, still acting like a businessman who just lost a client, not a man whose double life was bleeding out into the open. We all sat. Diane tapped her glass. I'd like to say something. I almost laughed. Full circle. But this time, it wasn't a toast to lie. It was to rip it all apart. Diane stood up and said, I've been lied to for 25 years. By my husband. By my son. And tonight, I'm taking my name back. People shifted in their seats. Claire looked like she wanted to disappear. Richard opened his mouth to interrupt, but Diane pulled a stack of paper from her purse and slapped it on the table. Marriage certificates. 2. One to me. One to another woman. Both valid. Both real. You lied, Richard. You cheated. You faked your life. Rachel walked in right then. Like a damn movie. She walked right up to the table. Calm. Hands shaking, but strong. I'm Rachel, she said. I'm his wife. Gasps. One of the cousins dropped a fork. Claire's eyes went wide. She looked at Jake like he might faint. But Diane wasn't done. And Jake, she said, turning slowly, you disgusting, weak little coward. His face changed fast. Red. Sweaty. Like someone turned on a spotlight just for him. You knew what your father was. You knew about Claire. You tried to manipulate your way out of your marriage. You played both women like they were dolls. And you thought I would sit here and watch you become him. She looked at me. Do it. So I pulled out my phone, connected to the Bluetooth speaker, and played one last recording. Jake's voice. Once Dad makes the announcement, she'll flip and leave. Then it won't be my fault. Claire covered her mouth. Diane sat back down. Jake stood up fast. It's not what it sounds like. I was confused. I was under pressure, Rachel cut in. You said the same thing when I found your dad's photos in your inbox. He froze. I turned to him. You knew your dad was living a double life. You were helping him keep it quiet. You were using him as an example for your own exit plan. And Claire? She stood up, tears in her eyes. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. He said you were separated. He said you were cold. That you'd been cheating on him. I laughed. Out loud. Girl, the only thing I've been doing is paying bills while he pretended to be a victim. Jake looked between all of us. He was trapped. All the lies closing in at once. You were supposed to be different, he said to me, quiet. You were supposed to understand. My family is complicated. You're not complicated, I said. You're a carbon copy of your father. But worse. He at least had the decency to lie with a plan. Jake stormed out first, slamming the door. Claire followed 10 seconds later, crying. Her heels clicking on the hardwood like punctuation. Richard sat still. Rachel leaned in and whispered, I'll be in touch. The state will want to speak to you. Then she left too. Diane poured herself another drink, looked me dead in the eyes and said, You saved my life. I didn't know it until tonight, but you did. I didn't know what to say. I just nodded. And I left. The divorce? Finalized 3 months later. Jake fought it at first. Tried to say I was unstable after the video incident. His lawyer quit. Mine didn't. He ended up with no house, no wife, and a family that cut him off. Richard's legal issues are still unraveling. Bigamy. Fraud. Wire transfer violations. Rachel is pressing charges. Diane suing too, for everything she can get. Claire moved to Arizona. Rachel and I? We still talk. Not often, but when we do we laugh. Like survivors. And me? I got out. With peace. People keep asking me if I regret it. No. Because when someone shows you who they are, and then plans your pain, you don't cry forever. You burn their map and walk your own way.